Welcome to the Stoic Responder Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Healy. As a special agent who spent more than 15 years conducting large-scale fraud, money laundering, and public corruption investigations, Stoic philosophy provided a mindset edge that became the foundation of my professional success. My mission today is to share those same ancient mindset lessons with you so that you can turn obstacles into opportunities and adversity into advantage. Time to muster up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoic Responder Podcast. This is episode 65, Do Something. Before we get started, I want to remind you of our favorite 501c3 that supports the law enforcement community. That, of course, is the Overwatch Collective. The Overwatch Collective is a nonprofit and podcast funding therapy sessions and supporting mental health initiatives for our first responders, our veterans, and their families. The motto over at the Overwatch Collective is one more is one less. I take that to heart, especially during Suicide Prevention Month, which is happening right now in September. Because one more individual that we can provide these critical services to is one less potential statistic. You can check out the Overwatch Collective at theoverwatchcollective.com, pick up some gear, make a donation, support them in their efforts because they are doing everything that they can to support our law enforcement community. I also want to give a shout out to Blue Badge Coffee Company. The mission of Blue Badge Coffee Company is to provide customers with the absolute best, highest quality premium coffee that their money can buy. Blue Badge takes a portion of each sale and donates to law enforcement agencies around our great nation to assist them in funding and or maintaining peer support and wellness programs for their officers. These programs are crucial for the physical and mental well-being of our hardworking officers in the law enforcement agencies across the country. You can check them out, get yourself some great coffee, get the most comfortable sweatshirt that money can buy as well over at bluebadgecoffee.com. Folks, we're talking about temperance and self-discipline today, and who better to introduce that topic than the great Cato the Younger. Cato, of course, was a senator in the late Roman Republic. We've talked about him before on the podcast, but let me start you out with a Cato quote. When men choose to do nothing, they also learn to do evil. Ooh, heavy hitting. You know, there's a lot of people who talk about the sins of commission versus sins of omission. And I think that's what Cato is talking about here. He's talking about the specific problem of sins of omission. Now, the name Cato, it's going to carry a lot of weight and historical significance. If you study American history, you're going to actually hear a lot about Cato as well, even if you don't study ancient Rome, because Cato is kind of this, he's a Roman statesman, he's a leader, and he's kind of the face of Stoicism in the late Roman Republic. And his unwavering commitment to the defense of that republic eventually leads to him choosing to take his own life over living under Caesar's dictatorial rule. He was like the chief antagonist to Julius Caesar during his rise to dictatorial power at the end of the Roman Republic. And so Cato kind of stands as this sort of example that a lot of our founding fathers revere. George Washington was often referred to as America's Cato by his contemporaries. John Adams, Jefferson, Sam Adams, they all quoted Cato regularly in their letters to one another. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but George Washington himself had a play about Cato. He had this production done at Valley Forge to give the men at Valley Forge some morale boost during that horrible winter. So Cato was very heavily on the hearts and minds of our founders, in large part because he had such steadfast integrity. He had such fealty to the republic that he served. And so like our founding fathers, he understood that in the face of wrongdoing, in the face of injustice like they were facing from King George III, that remaining passive or indifferent would lead to individuals having a moral decline, this perilous path, this slippery slope of moral decline. In other words, if you allow something to happen, it becomes allowable. If you look the other way when a bad thing is happening and you have the power to do something about it, that is also a way to commit evil. As Cato says, when men learn to do nothing, they learn to do evil. I've talked about this a lot. I am not an Army guy. I was not a West Point guy, but there is this, very simple honor code at West Point. A cadet will not lie, cheat, nor steal, nor tolerate those who do. That's exactly what Cato is saying here. We don't allow evil to happen because by doing so, we're learning to do evil ourselves. When we don't stand against evil, we may as well be standing for it. And I think that's something that isn't said enough. It's not a It's not done enough in our law enforcement community. In other words, we need more men like Cato. We need people like Cato in our law enforcement community because we have this hyper-political policing environment right now. The profession is plagued by too many people who are willing to go along to get along, to avoid scrutiny so that they can climb that ladder, so that they can gain acceptance from their peers, from their supervisors. And when we choose that path, that is the surest way to erode our moral compass. That's the surest path to moral decline. That is the slippery slope that Cato is talking about. When we witness wrongdoing, especially within our own ranks in the law enforcement community, we have a moral obligation to act, even if it could cost us, especially if it could cost us. Because when we do not act, the consequences of that inaction ripple through society. They erode the profession and they perpetuate evil. So take this down. When men choose to do nothing, they also learn to do evil. Remember that the next time you find yourself in a situation where it's hard to do the right thing, that when you don't do the right thing, you are allowing evil to happen. And that is choosing. That is a choice that you are making to allow evil to happen. And if you take this oath, if you stand up in front of God, in front of your community, in front of your country, you take an oath to protect and defend, you cannot allow yourself to take a step down that path towards moral decay, towards moral decline, towards allowing and perpetuating evil. So, hope that helps somebody today. Get out your Big Chief notebook, get out your journal, get out your pen, write this down. Is protecting my own career contributing to my own moral decline? In other words, am I going along to get along? I want you to call yourself out if you are. I want you to recognize those incidents when you have. And I want you to make a pledge right here and now that you're never going to do it again. Because as Cato said, when we choose to do nothing, we learn to do evil. Folks, if you want to support this podcast, there's a few ways that you can do so. Number one, you can pick up a copy of my book, In Valor, 365 Stoic Meditations for First Responders. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get your books. It's available on Kindle and Nook for instant download. I prefer the paperback. You can get either copy, whichever you like. Maybe get both. I don't know. But it's a great way to practice this philosophy daily. It's also a great resource for law enforcement, first responders, or really anybody who is in a high-stress career, because it's going to give you quotes, it's going to give you contextualization that's directly relatable to your experiences. It's going to give you some daily journal prompts and action items to help you integrate those lessons. Number two, you can subscribe to the Stoic Responder for free over on Substack at thestoicresponder.substack.com. Completely free. You'll get all 4 of the podcasts in your email inbox every week. Plus, you will get any newsletters that I write. Sometimes I write 1, sometimes I write 2. Maybe I'll write more. I don't know. But you're going to get those as well. And those are going to contain Stoic leadership and personal development tips. And finally, the easiest thing that you can do to support this podcast is to like, share, and subscribe so that others can learn about what we're doing here and can pay attention to my philosophical musings. So, folks, thanks so much for another great week. If I sound a little bit hoarse and a little bit worn down, it's because as I was recording these 4 episodes. I tend to record these on Sundays or Mondays all at once, and I just so happen to be solo dad as I'm recording them this weekend. So there's been a lot of pauses in the process as I take care of my children and their various needs. So thanks for having patience with me, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Until next time, you are out of roll. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, rate, and share this podcast so that we can spread the benefits of Stoicism to other first responders. It will only take you a few moments, but it can help us tremendously. Until next time, out of roll.